Well, hello all. My name is Corey Lambertson with Whitmix Corporation. We are on our first, or I guess second series here of the training program that we're putting on during this unfortunate time. I just want to go around and just give we'll do a quick introduction of everybody, and we'll talk about the course of what we're doing today, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So the course we're doing today is a open Q&A session. In this session, if you have any questions on 3Shape, let's say, or Roland Mills, Millbox, the Asiga 3D printer, the Asiga Composer software, Bellis 3D, the Whitmix 3D printer, the Alpha 3D software, anything digital, now is your time to ask it. We also have joining us today William Devine. He was a last minute addition to this. He is our senior core support technician, so he handles all of our core products, whether it be like our gypsum, our investment, articulators, our model trimmers, vacuum mixers, and we'll be able to ask him questions. Plus, he's going to give us some tips today on how to store your equipment for extended periods of time where it's not going to be functioning or maybe not being used. That's going to be extremely helpful for a lot of laboratories out there today. So let's go around the room real quick. Once again, my name is Corey Lambertson. I am the product support manager. And if you guys are in the same order of everybody else, I guess, Bryce, are you below me on your screen too?
Yeah, I think Evan is below you on my screen, so
Okay,
yeah,
well,
but
I'll have
we
you, yeah, you go ahead and go first, Bryce, and then we'll go around the room.
cool. My name's Bryce Hiller, obviously with Whitmix. I work with all these other three rapscallions in this group here in tech support. I primarily deal with 3D printing, like the Asiga 3D printers and our own Whitmix Varibuild 3D printer, as well as 3Shape CAD software. So those are kind of my little niches. I'm really looking forward to the series that we have coming up. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for everybody, and can, I think, maybe help us all keep our minds occupied during this very crazy and difficult period.
Very cool. Evan, you want to go to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, my name is Evan Kemper. I'm an application engineer here at Whitmix. A lot of you probably already know me. But yeah, kind of my day-to-day is a little bit of development, training and support, and I mean, that's about it. So,
Cool. And then we have William Devine. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Will.
Hello, everyone. I'm Will Devine. I'm the Senior Tech Support Representative for our core products, covering investments, gypsums, equipment, furnaces, you name articulators, ROH products. So if you ever have any questions regarding those products, I'm happy to help. You can always reach out. I know right now things are a little bit challenging and things are a little unusual, but we're going to cover some things today that you can keep things stored correctly, maybe do some preventative maintenance if you're going to be shutting your equipment down. Unfortunately, if you have to close your doors temporarily, some things you can do to keep things viable. So when you do open back up, you're going to be ready to go. And look forward to your questions today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Will. I'm going to have Bryce is going to be our moderator today. And so let us know what you got coming down the pipeline, Bryce.
Yeah, so a lot of these series are going to be focusing a lot, very heavily on digital equipment, but um, you know, the other side of this is all of our analog supplies and equipment, and these supplies and pieces of machinery keep us running just as much as our digital ones do. So you know, for the first few minutes here, I wanted to kind of pick Will's brain a little bit as to what we can do to make sure we preserve these properly during this, you know, if you're temporarily shut down. So the first thing I want to talk about, Will, is what advice do you have for storing your gypsums and your investments? I think we're all very much aware that these materials are very, very susceptible to environmental factors. So what advice do you have for making sure that we store these properly so that when the technicians come back into the laboratory that they're ready to go?
That's a good question, Bryce. So if your facility, for example, is going to be shut down, you know you're not going to be using your materials for quite a while, your gypsum products. A real easy solution is we ship our gypsums, for example, out in a very robust bag. It's always a good idea to leave that material in a bag. I'm not a real fan of stone bins. I've used them. But if you can avoid that, if you can just take the bag out of the box, maybe put it into a drawer somewhere or into like a tote of some sort, it comes with a twist tie on it. A good idea is to go ahead and cut off the label on the box so we can see the lot number and the item number. Should we need to test it if there's something that is suspect later when you come back to operations. If you're still in operation, it's still not a bad idea to do this. Another thing you can probably do if you got time on your hands and you're buying in bulk and you're trying to save money, you could weigh up some material ahead of time. Create your own pouches. You could get you a basic regular kitchen scale you'd find at Walmart, some Ziploc bags, a tray like you see in a cafeteria, and just weigh up 100-gram increments of stone. You can do this for investment as well. That way you've got the convenience and the accuracy of pre-measured, pre-weighed containers without all the expense. So that's something you can do. And of course, always store the material away from, inside, ideally between 68, 78 degrees, and just make sure that you keep it away from steamers, boil out tanks, anything like that, sinks. Keep them in a dry, kind of stable environment. If the temperature is comfortable for you, then it'll probably be comfortable for the investment in gypsum. So it's really important because they do try to absorb moisture from the atmosphere and try to start setting up on you. So that's a really good point, Bryce.
So let's say hypothetically, a lab is going to be shutting their doors for 2 weeks. Would you recommend them getting either a humidifier, an air humidifier, or dehumidifier, depending on their environmental conditions? Even if it's just for their room where they're storing their investments and their gypsums.
That's a very good point as well. Probably a dehumidifier would be your best option at the very least. Maybe not for the entire facility. That might not be a viable option, but at least get one where it can control the area where the investment in the gypsum is going to be stored. Ideally, we want to keep that humidity at or below 40%. At Whitmix, where we manufacture it, where we store it, that's what we try to do, keep it below 40%. It's sometimes a challenge, but once we go above that humidity level, it can really affect the properties of the material, especially if we got long periods of time where it's not going to be used. So that can be a problem.
Okay. What about like the special liquids for the investments? Would we need to take any kind of special precautions storing that, or what's your advice on that?
Well, they're not prone to humidity issues so much if the lid is tightly sealed. But if you got them in containers where they're open to the air, like if you move them over, some people like to pre-mix the liquid with the water ahead of time, and that's perfectly fine. But maybe if you're not going to be using it for a while, some people have those little dispensers where you can squeeze it and squirt out as much as they need in a type measuring device, like a graduated cylinder. Just make sure you take that lid off and make it where it's airtight. Store it, you don't want it in direct sunlight if you can avoid that. Store it in a cabinet away from excessive heat or excessive cold. We don't want that. We don't want it stored outside. And also if you, I could segue over into our machines if you prefer, like the office bench, for example. If you're going to be shutting down for a period of time, the liquid is prone to congeal and prone to crystallize in the tubing. So what you can do is undo the liquid side, replace it with a container of water, distilled or deionized water, and then purge the liquid side before you shut it. If you're going to be shutting it down, for example, purge the liquid side, run some water through it to kind of clean out those hoses. Then you can keep it under pressure. You can turn the unit off, but replace it with water, because you could come back and those hoses could be congealed, and you might have to replace the caps and the hose assemblies. Although there's tricks to kind of clean those out if need be. If you're still in operation and you still need to use them and you're having difficulties and you don't want to buy new cap assemblies, or you're having slow deliveries and you're not able to get supplies, you can take that white hose off on the liquid side, get you a metal coat hanger, cut off a straight section of it, go over to the sink, and then just run that coat hanger through that hose and clean it out, kind of clean the arteries, so to speak, of that hose, to clean that out and get water running through there and get it back up to speed. So if you can't get access to parts, it's kind of a way to keep you going, because some labs are still going to be in operation. So we want to keep those going as best we can. And of course, you can always reach out to me via email or call, and I can help you with any questions you might have or any part numbers you might need. Happy to help.
I wonder to clean out the hoses. Have you ever tried using like a brush from like a gun cleaning kit, like a 22 sized? I wonder if you could use one of those, or I wonder if that would damage the hose. Like it would be a wire, probably like a wire type brush. You think that would work?
Probably no more than the coat hanger. If perhaps when we're back in the office, if you could, show me the size hose, it might go inside that hose. I'm not sure. It seems to a coat hanger thickness seems to go in that hose really well. So if it's much bigger
Okay.
than that, no.
Okay.
But if it's flexible enough, it might be a good secondary option.
Okay. Cool.
That's a good idea.
I think the last thing I wanted to ask you about specifically was what precautions can you take with the power mixers or the combination units? Do you need to do any kind of like if you're going to be not using it for 2 weeks, for example, do you need to do any kind of lubrication just to make sure everything stays, I guess, fluid mechanically?
Well, you can actually run it, but before you're going to be shutting down with the hose not attached to anything, that will purge everything. That will relubricate your vein area, your pump area where the veins are. What you could do if it's going to be an extended period of time, you could even, if you want to go to this extent, you could take the end plate off the top, the 6 screws, just spray a little WD-40 down in there to kind of lubricate everything, and then tighten everything back down. And again, try to keep the humidity level down, because again, humidity can attack equipment just like it can investment in gypsum. So that's well, yes.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for that info, Will.
Yeah, no problem.
Just to tie in, one of the attendees, Bryce, put in a remark to like using that brush. He said, "What about a Hydro Flask tube brush for cleaning out the tube?" Will, would that work as well?
Perhaps I've never used one. I just used a coat hanger simply because it was on hand, it was available, and it just pushed all that gelatinous material out, because otherwise I would have had to throw the hose away. So I wanted to extend the life of it and not have to replace it. Even though I can go back to P-Post and get one. Why not extend the life of something if you don't have to replace the part? But that might work. I'm not familiar with that particular tool, but.
Okay, cool. Just absolutely.
Good point. Thank you.
So looks like we have a couple other questions here. I guess let's go ahead and start taking those as they come in. So Dan asked, will I be able to use NextDent 3D Plus denture resin on the Asiga? Can I send in a sample to have Whitmix evaluate to get use on Asiga? Thanks. So it's kind of a two-part question there. Can you print it? Yeah, that's not going to be an issue. You can absolutely print it. What you need to be aware of, however, is the 510K clearance. So when we talk about 3D printing dentures, and is this a 510K cleared Class 2 medical device, we have to talk about this in the context of an ecosystem. So even though the Asiga Max may have a 510K and the NextDent might have a 510K, those don't have a 510K clearance together. And when we're talking about a 510K cleared denture, that 510K includes several different components. It includes the 3D printer, it includes the resin, the curing unit, and it even includes the CAD software. So yes, you certainly can print it on the Asiga Max, Dan, but that will not be a 510K cleared denture. So you do want to be very aware of that fact. And I believe I could be wrong. And Corey, you might know that the INI file for that, the resin profile, I believe is on Asiga's website. Let me take a look, and I can.
Actually, I looked that up while you were talking about it. So I'm going to share
cool.
my screen real quick. So I hope. Let me see if everybody. Let me know. All right. So I went to Asiga's website. And so if you own an Asiga 3D printer, if you log into your account, right when you go into it, there's actually a section called Material Library. And so I'm going to go ahead and select on the material library. And if I scroll down, we can see all the different profiles that are available from the different resin manufacturers. And it actually looks like they've added a couple of new ones. So just to ramble through the list and you guys can see it, but on the Asiga 3D printer, you have access to using Asiga, B9, Bluecast, Denka, Dentona, DTEX, Drave, Egger, Vision Tech. That's a new one that's added.
Yep.
Formlabs, that's new, that's been
Formlabs.
added. Yeah, GC, Keystone, Calzer, which is a new one that's been added. Liquid Create or Liquid Moen, Nextent, Power Resins Procedure, Ceramco, Shui, Stoller, Surehold, Voco, and of course yours truly, Whitmix. So these are all the different profiles or all the different resin manufacturers that are available to be used on your Asiga 3D printer. If we were to select on, wow, what are we talking? We're going to
Nextent.
Nextent. Here we are. So if we select on the Nextent brand of resin, we can see all the different resin material files that are available. And so we have Nextent base, the Nextent crown and bridge, the tray, the gingiva, the IBT, so indirect bonding tray, ortho, another model material, ortho rigid, surgical guide, castable, both of their microfilled hybrid materials, ortho clear, and then Trian. And so, yeah, all of those resin profiles are available to be used on the Asiga 3D printer. And
Now,
it's all, go ahead.
I think maybe is the I could be wrong, but I think the 3D Plus is different from the base, is it not? Is the 3D Plus, and Dan, you're probably gonna know this better than me, but yeah, okay, so he said, but there is no 3D Plus. So if there is a resin that is compatible with the Asiga, Corey, do you wanna kind of go over what the procedure is for us coming up with a resin profile?
Yeah, absolutely. So if let's say if there's a resin that you wanted to test, you can send us that resin. We just need about I would say probably maybe 100 milliliters of material to test. Not even that actually, probably like 50 milliliters of material. And what we'll do is we can go through and do create a cure table for that resin profile, and then we can share that back with you. That's completely doable. There will be some testing that you'll have to do to make sure it's actually printing properly on your end. So there are some more settings that we can adjust for shrinkage and growth of the resin itself, and also incorporate any sort of extra exposure needed to make sure it adheres to the build plate and make sure all the layers adhere after the first layer is created. So there is a process that we go through. We can absolutely achieve that. That is no problem at all, and it's fairly simple to do. And actually, we have documentation that shows how to do it as well, so we can share that with you as well. So Dan, if you want that, email us at the product support at whitmix.com, and I can share the document that covers this full process and how to add in a third party or unvalidated resin profile into your Asiga printer.
Awesome, very cool. Let's see. Let's see any other questions. Dan also asked, do I need a DME file to print? No, DME files are for 3Shape. You don't necessarily need that to print. The DME file is just going to have certain material settings in your CAD software, like various thicknesses, relief, stuff like that. It is not necessary to actually print per se. What you need is the INI file. So DME files are specific to 3Shape, and then INI files are specific to Asiga. The Asiga gum resin always comes out tacky even after curing for 20 minutes. What do you recommend? I think when I talked to Graham from Asiga, I think they actually recommend boiling it. Is that right, Corey? Do they recommend boiling the Asiga Dentagum?
You know, I've heard that they're doing a technique with boiling. Evan has actually worked more with the Dentagum more than I have. Do you know what the latest recommendation was for that?
I mean, aside from what they have in their IFU, which is the 20 minutes and like I believe either a glycerin water combination bath, that was working well for me. But again, most of the time I was actually doing it in our IntelliRay. So if you're the last time I cured it in just the flash, the glycerin and bath worked, but also it may have been on longer than 20 minutes. You know, I can't say off the top of my head, but I haven't seen any new instructions about boiling it, so that may be something they're testing. But you may just want to extend that exposure time a little bit more, and then make sure to put it in a glycerin bath.
And the glycerin bath will do I mean, that does quite a number on it, because it creates an oxygen inhibition layer around the object you're curing, which allows the light to actually penetrate through and cure it completely.
Awesome.
Nice.
Kevin asks, is there a specific cleaning solution for cleaning these Ziga printers? No, at this point, I've never used any kind of cleaning solution. If you need to, like for example, clean the glass, if you're going to use anything, just isopropyl alcohol, and obviously don't pour it on there. Maybe like spritz just a tiny bit on like a microfiber, and then you can wipe down that glass. But as a general rule, you shouldn't be necessarily spraying anything. But the general rule of thumb is just microfiber.
Yeah, that seems to work really well.
Let's see, Francisco. Good morning, guys. How long can you safely leave whip mix or Asiga resin inside the vat or print tray in this tray inside its original box in a closed dark drawer before it expires, and deciding to pour it back in its original bottle? Thank you. So that's going to be resin dependent. There are some resins that separate very, very quickly. Extant comes to mind. You pretty much have to mix those every single day. However, our resins, you can leave the resin in the tray, and as long as you store it properly, which is which you already outlined, Francisco, which is inside the original box and in a dark area like a drawer or a cabinet, you can really leave those in for a very long time. The only thing you might need to do, particularly like on our model resins, they will separate. Like if you leave them for like a month and then you go back to that tray, the pigments are going to settle to the bottom slightly. You don't need to pour all of the resin back into the bottle. You can actually, what we do is we just use just an old business card, and you can actually just kind of mix it up in the resin tray. You obviously can pour it back into the bottle and just give it a quick shake, but it's not required to do that, I should say. That's a really good question. So yeah, general rule of thumb, whip mix resins, you're pretty much good to leave them in the tray as long as you're storing them properly.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, Corey, one thing I wanted to ask you about was, do you have any recommendations for the 3-shape scanners? Storing those, should the end user be taking any precautions if it's going to be sitting without being in use for an extended period of time?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this the other night actually, and what I would recommend if you guys aren't going to be using your scanner for even like 2 days or greater, I would recommend actually powering down the scanner itself. And so before you do that, make sure you shut down the connection in the scan server or scan suite software. So you close that connection point between the computer and the scanner, and then there is a power switch on the back of the scanner to go ahead and power it down properly. Beyond that, what I'd also recommend if storing it for a longer period of time is if you have an E-series scanner, I would cover it just to prevent dust from getting into it or on it. I've heard people using like trash bags or even like pillowcases, really anything like that. I really like the pillowcase idea better because it does breathe. And so if for some whatever reason there's humidity, that humidity can escape through the actual pillowcase. If you have one of the traditional like D-series scanners, there's no really any need to cover that, but I would recommend that you power it down just to prevent, one, I mean, it doesn't need to be on all the time because you're not using it, and two, that little bit of power draw will maybe save you a couple pennies throughout the month.
Everything counts.
Yep.
All right, let's see. Dan asks, I'm trying to get whip mix Verisplint OS to cute clear. I assume you're asking, or saying you're trying to cure clear. Okay. I'm curing in nitrogen in the auto flash, but 6,000 flashes looks to burn it. We went to 3,900 and still not clear. And no, it doesn't clean when polishing. Thanks so much. So one weird little quirk that we've found is really interesting actually. The even if after you polish it, it's still there's a little discoloration. We've actually discovered that discoloration dissipates over time. So if you were to just cure and polish a splint and you let it sit for a week, you're gonna see actually a decent amount of difference in the discoloration. I'm not personally, I don't know exactly why that happens. That's over my head. But we have discovered that, and I'm guessing Corey is back there and he's gonna grab some
Yeah,
to
so
demonstrate.
I'm just grabbing some different. I mean, these are all splints that have been they've all been polished and cured. And so where's my webcam at? So it's hard to see, but you can see through it, and that color does go away over time. Now, for that polishing process, next week we are doing a splint course. It's called Splints 101. So the first day on Monday is going to be the scanning and designing. Day 2 on Wednesday is going to be the 3D printing, nesting tricks and tips inside the Osiga Composer software and actually printing it. We're going to show it live. And then on Friday, we're going to go through and actually show you how to post-process it, how to cure it, and then how to polish it properly to get it to this point. So then you guys can see firsthand how to get it to that clear or glass-like state. Now it will have a little bit of a tint to it when it's done, but it's very minor. Now the intaglio surface there, that you can't polish itself. That part, it cannot be polished. And the reason why is because you just can't reach it. I know some laboratories, they actually use a little bit of mineral oil and they'll put that inside, which actually makes the layering process fade away, which will make it almost look completely translucent. So if we look at it from this view, it looks frosted, but if I rotate it down, then you can see that it is clear through there. But it's this process takes a little bit of time to nail down. I'm hoping with this that really it's gonna be next Friday where you see the polishing process. I'm hoping with that you'll be able to see firsthand how to turn it into a glass-like state. But we do get a couple questions with that, and then once you nail it that first time, you're like, oh, okay, this is how to properly do it and how to get it properly clean. Something. Oh, I just want to touch back. Before after we finish up with the splint question, Bryce, we had a question very in the beginning about Bellis 3D. That's one of the first. We'll go back to that in a second. I hope that helped answer. Dan, I think you have one more. How many flashes would you recommend for the splint resin? It's 6,000 flashes or none at all. And the part of that is because that's part of that FDA 510K. The amount of curing time needed, it has to be the 6,000 flashes with the auto flash, and it does give it. I mean, it, especially where the supports were, it looks like it's it gives it almost like a burnt look, but once you polish it, it goes right away. So let me show you firsthand on Friday, actually next week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But I think you'll be quite pleased with the outcome of the splint when we're done.
Okay, so do we want to go back and Evan, do you want to talk about Bellis 3D? For all of you out there, Evan is kind of our guru on Bellis 3D. He's kind of spearheaded this project for us. So David asks, he asks about information and training. So Evan, what information do you have about that?
So Bellis actually has a really good tutorial video already out on YouTube for using the Dental Pro application. And if you send an email to our product support at whitmix.com, then I can send you a link to that. But it's a pretty straightforward app, and if you need help walking through it, then we of course can provide you with that if you open a ticket with us at that same email, product support at whitmix.com. But you'll probably be able to use it just fine if you follow through on that tutorial video. They also have a general Dental Pro overview, which tells you kind of what the app's about, what features are in it. But they do have the actual tutorial, which walks you through all the different features.
Awesome. Let's see. Danny asks, if we had a printed model and want to fabricate a full acrylic denture, how can we separate the printed model from the denture base acrylic?
I think Will's
That
just
could be a good one for Will because he actually
yeah.
dealt
Well,
with that.
when we did some testing, the only thing that seemed to really allow a separation if you sprinkled, because I did some poly appliances on top of a printed model. The only thing that was really seemed real effective at the time, unless the resin has changed, was actually petrolatum, Vaseline. Regular type of lubricant that you use, stone to acrylic, just doesn't seem to work. It didn't seem to help. I even tried dilube, and it just didn't. The only thing that seemed effective was actually, using Vaseline, a very thin layer. I know a lot of people find that maybe too thick, but that's the only thing that
Yeah.
allowed separation of the appliance once because I bent the wire, sprinkled it the traditional way on a printed model, and that was the only thing that seemed to work.
Yeah.
Now there was a material that was out, but I think that the company that produced that material has a patent on it, and somebody has a patent on that. So
On the process, right?
yeah, on the
Yeah.
process, I believe. So that's something that hopefully we can see it again someday, where they have an actual separator for acrylic to acrylic or acrylic to printed acrylic. Um, but it's as of right now, I don't know of any company that actually is selling or producing anything due to that process being patented. However, the Vaseline works really well. Thanks, Will.
Mhm.
Yep. Let's see. Rebecca asks, when will Whitmix come out with their own denture resin and also temp resin? Okay. So a little bit of insider baseball, I suppose. Corey, I'm gonna let you take this one because I don't know how much I
Yeah,
am or am not allowed to say.
so we're always working on new formulas of resin. Um, we have formulas stocked up in the back in our R&D laboratory. Really, it comes down to the amount of time it takes for FDA regulation or FDA approval for these type of materials. Um, so I don't have an exact timeline. I know it's something that we're working on and shooting for. We're trying to, instead of creating material that's like other materials that are on the market, we're trying to create a material that's above and beyond the standard level or quality of materials. So we're looking to have not just a denture resin or a temporary resin. We're looking to have the next generation of temporary resin and next generation of denture resin to just to kind of up the game or up the next level of those materials. Now, we currently are resellers for Dentka. And so Dentka has their FDA approved 510K denture base resin, denture tooth resin, try-in resin. They also have a temporary resin that is available now as well. And that is validated on the Asiga 3D printer along with the Whitmix Variabuild 3D printers. And so both of those are covered under that 510K umbrella for all of the Dentka materials available. So that was a very good question, Rebecca.
And I don't know if you guys have gotten any updates on this, but we were told at Lab Day in Chicago by DTAX that they had submitted the application for a 510K for their denture resins and their temporary resin on the Asiga Max. So if it hasn't been finalized yet, I would guess it's going to be pretty soon. I actually got my hands on some of the DTAX denture baseplate resin, and I really, really liked it. It's a little bit stronger than the Dentka, and I like the color more personally, especially for characterization. It's a little more opaque, which I personally prefer if I'm going to be characterizing. But that is much more preference. But so hopefully we'll be able to possibly send out like an email blast if that happens, or when that happens, I should say, because they have submitted the paperwork. Sherry, can you make some recommendations on what to use in place of isopropyl alcohol for post-processing printed parts in light of the shortage? Evan, what would your thoughts be on that?
I mean, honestly, with these kind of resins, unfortunately it's kind of the material that you have to use. I don't know that the resins would react well to acetone. Probably not. Of course, you could try it, I guess. If it doesn't seem to affect it in any negative way, then you could probably use that. But basically, you've got to have a solvent to break down the resin. Water just won't cut it.
Have
At
you
least with
tried
these,
denatured?
that is another one that can be used. We've had some people already try that just because it was cheaper. Now, whether if you're talking about the the medical grade resins or the ones that have an FDA clearance, unfortunately you're going to have to stick to isopropyl for that. But for like models, and you could try denatured, possibly acetone.
Okay.
But of course, definitely test it first before you throw something you need, right away in it.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Okay.
vodka would not work. Just
Well,
no.
you could probably go buy Everclear. That would work.
There you go.
Maybe.
And
Oh,
maybe that's
that's ethyl
cheaper.
alcohol, but yeah.
Maybe cheaper and easier to find at this point.
I don't know that I'd be willing to use it for that though.
Sacrifice it.
Personally. Cool. Danny, let's see. Danny asks, what is the best way to clean the zirconia out of the upper door chamber and off the moving parts for the Roland 52D?
So, I mean, on that one, unfortunately, there's not like an official document out there from Roland that talks about cleaning out that portion of the chamber. But, I mean, really what's best, as far as what's accumulated inside the door, would be to just, if you can attach or pull the vacuum hose and vacuum it out inside. If the hose is too big, then you might get one of those small hand vacs that can get in there. As far as what's on the rails, you can use a microfiber cloth to clean the rails, but you would want to, of course, before you start using it again, get some of the grease and re-grease the rails. So really those are going to be the best ways. As far as what gets on the, like if you're using the disc changer one, which I know you asked about the 52D, but on the disc changer, there does happen to be some powder that'll accumulate in the changer area that can be brushed out and then vacuumed out of the bottom. But as far as just inside the chamber or up inside the maintenance door, it's going to be just a small vacuum, or even just a microfiber cloth when it's got like good ridges on it to pick up the dust.
Okay, cool. Let's see. I lost my spot.
We're at we just did the Danny Thornton, and then then we had Dan asked again, a different Dan asked how many flashes, and then we're at the high from Medellin.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see. Which manufacturer has the resin for whiter temporal teeth for a Sigamax printer? Thank you.
So for bleach white, that Hollywood Smile white, I don't know of anybody that has any bleach shade at this point in time. Now it's just, once again, that the temporary 3D printable material game is pretty infant, and so I think we'll probably see something coming out in the matter of time.
Yeah. David said latex makeup material works if you're pouring. I assume he's referring to the dentures. I haven't tried that. That's definitely something to look into.
That's actually a good idea.
Interesting. Yeah. That is.
We'll have to get some of that in, and then when we get back up and rolling 100%, we'll have to get that tested.
Yeah, definitely. Dr. Bird asks, what is the role of glycerin in the cure for the printed denture? So basically the glycerin removes that oxygen layer and allows the resin to cure properly. You'll also notice something that's much more apparent when you do this. If you just cure it without glycerin, that denture is still going to feel tacky, and it's almost like it almost feels like kind of soft if you like scratch it with your fingernail, and just feels like still oily and uncured. Whereas if you cure this in glycerin, it's going to feel like a final cured prosthetic. So the glycerin is definitely required, both by the FDA and just it is a requirement of the resin. So you always want to make sure that when you're curing your printed dentures, at least the Dentka resins on the Sigamax, that you're curing those in a glycerin bath. Do we have to use it with the Dentka material? Yes. Yeah.
I just had a one of our sales manager, Chris Fry, just sent me a message. Nextent does have bleach for their microfilled hybrid temporary. So
Yep.
that would get you close to that Hollywood smile. I have not used it to verify, but that is something that's on the market.
I have printed a little bit of that in the Asiga. And that I printed some right when it came out, and it was a little inconsistent for me, but I'm assuming that that has been fixed in more recent INI files. But you do have to keep in mind that that does not have a 510K on the Asiga Max. If you want a 510K for that, you have to use it in the Nextent printer. You can print it in the Asiga, but it will not have that 510K clearance.
And that's only for the states, by the way, too. So if we have any viewers that are outside, then outside of the United States, you have to look with your local country or state regulation on what you have for your materials and your printer.
Yep. Kevin, Danny asked, how come we haven't gotten any T-shirts? You know, we need to come up with like I don't know, some way for people to earn their T-shirts. And I don't even like the word earn. That's not even a good word. I don't know. What do you guys think? What could we do?
Well, I think I believe we did a program before where if you did like a shout out for Whitmix, like a hashtag Whitmix, and like talked about one of our products or service support, whatever from Whitmix, then we'd send you a shirt. So we'll have to first we need to actually get shirts because I think we've ran out. So we need to get more shirts in, and then we can take a look at that. And I think if this is the Danny that I think I know we're referring to, ask Chris. I think this is Danny up in Illinois. So
Yeah, you guys got to understand. These are premium. These shirts are premium material, and we can't just hand these out willy-nilly. I mean, this is a premium material here. So
22% cotton.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Or no expense.
All right. Let's see. What is next? What time do you recommend for cleaning the printed pieces in Veracast in the curing light time? What time do you recommend for cleaning? So in terms of cleaning, typically, and this is true of almost all 3D printed objects, typically 5 minutes in a dirty bath and 5 minutes in a clean bath in isopropyl is going to be sufficient. The curing time, I'm blanking on the curing time for the Veracast. Corey, do you know off the top of your head? I can look it up if not.
The curing time, I believe it's a total of roughly 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Now, the formula calls for a nitrogen chamber. If you don't have a nitrogen chamber, then you can use the glycerine bath technique and do a total of 5 minutes of cure. Now, of course, this all is dependent on what curing unit you have. If you have like the Uvatron or the Auto Flash, 5 minutes is enough. If you have the actual the Sega Flash unit, I would go longer. I'd probably go about 10 or 15 minutes because that is a little bit weaker of a light. It is not going to provide the amount of dosage of light like the other two curing units can provide. Good question.
Yep. Let's see. Dan asks, can you add UV tints to resin before curing to adjust colors? I got nothing.
I think it's a multifaceted answer.
Yeah.
One, I mean, it depends on what resin you're putting it into. Technically, with the Asiga, yes, you could do it. It may, depending on what you're putting in there, require that you adjust the material file to alter the exposure. And if you're trying to alter like the splint resin, then I'm gonna say no, because you're altering the formula, and that is something that was approved by the FDA and could be adding, materials into it that are not biocompatible.
And actually, he just put a comment on there, denture resin, of course. So with the,
Yeah.
I mean, technically, because the stand we know works with a prosthodontist, and there's a little bit of the FDA loophole, and so with a dentist itself, it's not like it has to be with the 510K. I believe the dentist has the ability to prescribe any sort of material. So, but you're kind of gambling there. So just you don't know what you're putting in, if it's going to have any sort of allergic reaction to the patient, or so on and so forth. Well, I just had a message come through. It looks like we missed 2 questions earlier from Rebecca.
Oh yeah, I see one. I also downloaded the Asiga DME for 3Shape. What does it involve? That Asiga DME is going to be for their resins. So unless you're using their resins, you don't need to install that. We do have for our Whitmix resins, we do have a DME file, at least for the model resins. We have a DME. So if you need that, just shoot us an email, Rebecca, and we can get that right to you.
And then there's one more I saw up above. It says we have 2 Asiga Max printers. Thank you for your commitment to Whitmix and Asiga, but one screen is brighter than the other one. I haven't found out anywhere I can change the screen to brighten them up or not. I've actually noticed that as well. We have a full batch of Asiga printers that were produced at different times throughout the last 4 years. Evan, have we been selling Asiga? 4 years, 3.5 years, 4 years, I think.
Yeah, we brought them on summer 2016.
And so what we've noticed is that over the years, the older printers, the LED light usually looks a little bit dimmer, and I think it also depends on the manufacturer of the LCD screen at that point in time.
Yeah, there was a point I noticed that I think they might have switched to who's making them, and there was a slightly different tint to the screen, so that could be what you're seeing.
Yeah. And so if it's a huge concern, let us know. We can get replacement screens from Asiga. It doesn't actually change or affect the overall performance of your printer. It's just that one looks slightly dimmer than the other. So just let us know, Rebecca. You can send us an email at productsupport@whitmix.com, and we can let you know what all is associated with the screen swap.
So we kind of have a two-for question here. What type of glycerin should I buy? And we also have, can you repeat the use for glycerin? So the type of glycerin should be USDA food grade. You can get it on Amazon. You can probably get it like Walmart or like a pharmacy. And then yeah, you can absolutely reuse the glycerin. You don't have to change it out every time by any means.
The same person asked, can you repeat the use for the glycerin? So I think maybe he's also asking, like, what is the purpose of the glycerin? The glycerin itself is used to create a oxygen inhibition, a layer around the object that we're curing. It creates a dead zone where no oxygen is touching the structure. So when the light is actually curing that surface, we get a final surface cure, which depletes any active monomer on the surface of the printed structure. For castables, which I think this gentleman may have asked the castable question earlier. I'm not too sure, but it also will deplete the active monomers that could potentially create a reaction layer when investing in burning out and then casting or pressing. Good question.
Yeah, awesome. Now I got a question for Will. Can you provide the group with some beard growing tips? Because Corey and I are like Bush League right now, and I'm looking at you, and man, I need some advice.
Vitamins, multivitamins.
That's it. That's all it is.
Yeah, take your vitamins.
Yeah, you hear that first, kids. Take your vitamins, and you too can have a beard like Will.
Like William Devine.
That's awesome.
That is magnificent.
Vitamins.
Awesome. Well, let's see. I think I maybe have one more. Let's see, maybe 2 more questions. Both of these are going to be kind of geared towards Evan. Evan, do you have any advice, kind of back on the storing your equipment topic, circling back around? Do you have any advice for storage for the mill, either the 51D or the 52D?
So, I mean, as far as the dry mills, storage would be similar to like a scanner. I'd go ahead and do a good deep clean on it, which would just include kind of what we already talked about, vacuum it out. And that might mean bringing a vacuum hose in that you can bring in from the front, depending on how you've laid out your mill setup. Also wiping down that upper maintenance compartment with like a microfiber cloth. Those of you though that might have one of the roll and wet mills, there are some maintenance procedures that you need to go through if it's going to be sitting for more than a week. And the main thing is draining the coolant out of the lines. That's outlined in the user manual, but it's actually pretty easy to do. You just need a water catch tray. And then what you'll do is go into your V panel. There's going to be a drain water option that will actually pump the water out of the line so that you don't get any kind of sediment sitting in it, or potentially bacterial growth or something like that. And then after that, of course, powering them down. If you're not going to be using them, probably power down the computers as well, just in case you have any kind of like storms or surges and that kind of stuff that just you're reducing the risk there.
Okay. Cool.
Good tips.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Let's see. Looks like we have a question. Let's see. Do you want to review the support agreements for DTS products?
So I can cover that. So right now our service level agreements, those are actually being reviewed at this point in time. So we're coming out with an adjusted 3-tier system that would cover, let's say, for example, like extended warranty periods, or potentially giving you access to loaner equipment and so on and so forth. So at this point in time, we will have an edited version of that service level agreement coming out. We're just going through some of the final touches to make sure it's official before we release it. Good question, though. Absolutely. And also we'll have the prices for that once that's available.
Cool. We got another one. How could we glue the artificial teeth into a printed denture base? Let's see. That is from, okay. I guess it depends. Are we referring to printed artificial teeth, milled artificial teeth, or carded teeth? If you don't mind, kind of appending that and letting us know what kind of teeth we're referring to. Francisco asks, can you please go in depth in the glycerin technique for full dentures, time in glycerin, photo curing times in Acego Flash? Would that lamp be too weak for processing full dentures? Thanks. Yeah, so to answer that question, I'm going to explain to you kind of the way we handle that in our little ecosystem with Acega and Dentka Resin. So the actual technique for this final cure is going to be with the Uvatron curing unit, so either the Uvatron Sunray or the Uvatron IntelliRay. We do sell both of those curing units, and those are the curing units that we have a 510K clearance for on the Dentka denture resins. Now, when it comes to actually curing these, what you want to do is you want to get like from your grocery store or whatever, just like a 6 to 8 inch clear glass like Pyrex dish. I don't recommend using plastic Tupperware. I would use glass. You're going to get food grade glycerin, USDA food grade glycerin, and it doesn't matter how much you put in the bowl, just enough that the dentures will actually fully submerge. And you're actually going to cure for 8 minutes in the Uvatron, and then you're going to flip it, and then you're going to cure for another 8 minutes. And I do, I think on the IFU, I think it actually says 10 minutes. I do 8 minutes if I'm characterizing, because there will be a final cure for the characterized denture. So that's why I do 8 minutes. If you're not characterizing, then I believe it's 10 minutes, then flip it, and then another 10 minutes. And again, that's going to be in the Uvatron. You can't do this in the Acego Flash. That unit is simply not powerful enough to properly cure these dentures. So good question, Francisco. Sharon asks for Will, what can you do on articulator maintenance during this downtime? Great question.
You could probably, some of the moving components, and Jim Robinson, may have a correction on this, but some of the latch assemblies and the condylar areas, we don't want to drown them with WD-40, maybe a little spritz of WD-40 to kind of lubricate the latch assemblies, lubricate the condylar elements, where the incisal pin is. And if you're not going to be using them for a while, you could simply take a headrest cover that you'd see in a dental office, and once you re-lubricate everything, just cover them up to keep them from accumulating dust. You're not going to be mounting on anything. If you're going to transition maybe over to disposable articulators, maybe just clean them up really good with a little WD-40, wipe them off, and cover them up while they're in limbo until things get back up to full speed. That might be a good thing to do. Again, you're not going to use a whole lot of WD-40, just a couple little spritzes just to keep it, lubricated well and covered. Good question.
Cool. Justin asks, what is the difference between the Pro 4K 65 and the Pro 4K 80? Good question. Corey, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so the difference between the Pro 4K 65 and the Pro 4K 80, they're actually, if you were to look at them, they're the exact same printer. The only difference is that inside of the printer, where the projector is actually assembled for the Pro K65, it's actually closer to the imaging plane, which actually narrows down the scope of the projection. So that's the first main difference. So the build plate will be smaller on the Pro K65. Beyond that, the actual pixel size of the projection that's being shown on the Pro K65 will be a smaller pixel, a tighter pixel, which will actually result in a more accurate printer. Now that's between the Pro 4K and the Pro 65, the 65 and the 80. The XY pixel accuracy on the 80, the native pixel size is 80 microns. The Pro 4K 65 native pixel is 65 microns. And I'm just going to go to Seaga's website real quick, just so I can pull up and read to you guys what the difference in the actual build plate sizes are. So let me go to that real quick. And so for the Pro 4K 80 and the Pro 4K 65, the difference is the build volume on the 80 is 8.5 inches by almost 5 inches in X and Y, and then the 65 is 7 inches by 4 inches. So the 4K 80 does have a significantly larger build envelope, so you're going to be able to pump more indications, more models, more dentures, more splints on that printer than you can on the 65. And they actually have a it's like a pixel shift technology with the 4K projector or 4K printer. So if they put it in a true 4K mode, the pixel actually creates it's like a pixel vibration. I believe that cuts down the XY accuracy on the Pro 4K 80 down to 56 microns. Wasn't that what we heard in Chicago, Evan?
I think so. Yeah.
It was like 56 or 57 microns. So it's even more accurate. I mean, it's a phenomenal printer. We're stoked to get it in. Hopefully we'll have it in here in the next couple weeks. And once we have it in, being that it is slower here at Whitmix, we'll be able to get it validated and ready to ship and sell immediately. So we're pretty stoked for it. It's going to be a sweet printer. That's a good question, Justin. Thank you.
Rebecca asks, can you create an STL design for a resin bottle for the Asiga Max? This way I know I've used all of the resin from the bottle.
I think she might be talking about something to hold it to drain it.
There's actually one available.
Oh, I see what she's saying. Okay.
If you go to the Asiga Dental Experts on Facebook, so let me share my screen real quick. And let me move that out of the way.
I haven't seen this, so this is exciting.
So I'm pretty sure of it. I just saw it the other day because I was looking at different files. But if you go to Asiga Dental Experts on Facebook, if we go to Files, so right here we have Files. And on that, if you go down, so I'm going to scroll down, one of the first files up at the top is called the Ear Protector STL file. This is one that we highlighted on Monday, which is this guy right here. In case you guys want to download it, it's so you can actually apply this around the head and actually doesn't trap your ears and cut off circulation. But if you scroll down even further, about halfway down the page, there's a bottle holder V6. And so let me go ahead and actually download this real quick. And then I'll open it up and then we all can view what it looks like. Yeah, so to my knowledge, this is for the Sega Max. So it looks like this side, I'm going to hold it from this angle here. So this side here actually clips to the tray, and then your bottle will actually just rest right there.
That's pretty cool.
Cool.
I've never
Yeah,
seen
so
that.
there is this, so you can get every last drop out of that bottle of resin.
Liquid
So,
gold.
yeah,
not? It is.
it literally is liquid gold when you're trying to print that last model and
Yeah.
you you have just enough. It makes a huge difference.
Mhm.
Yep. Great.
Cool. Thanks for that, Corey.
Yeah.
I like that.
If we still want to order something from Whitmix, how should we do it? Should we call, email, or fax? Does anybody still fax?
What's a fax machine?
No, so we are definitely still open for taking orders. You can purchase from our website. I believe Laura in customer service is taking orders. Is that right, Corey?
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, so we still have access to take orders. You want to email us at wmcustservice@whitmix.com. If they call in the general hotline for customer service, if you leave a voicemail giving a descriptive or giving your phone number and email, what you're looking for, they'll be able to get back to you as soon as possible. So yes, we are absolutely up and running, taking orders. We're shipping daily. There's nothing, I guess, preventing us from moving forward on the business aspect here. So whatever you guys need, we're here for you. We're ready, and we have it.
Yep. Rebecca says, I don't have Facebook. How could I get this STL? Yeah, we can send that to you. Let me copy your, if it'll let me, copy your email address.
And if
I will get that to you.
if anybody wants that file as well, if you just email us at productsupport@whitmix.com saying I want the Sega bottle holder, let us know and we can just respond back to our ticketing system and get you the bottle holder.
Yep.
I'm actually going to probably print that today. Actually, I need it. Yep. Also, you can use orders@whitmix.com for placing orders, and you can call any of our sales technicians or sales reps, and also our website is fully functional as well still. Just another tip for getting orders in.
Let's see, Francisco asks, do you know if the 4K pixel printing mode Sega presented for the Pro 4K printers will be implemented as well for the Max UV in the future? Thanks. I haven't heard anything about that. I would probably doubt it. I wouldn't think they would. I think that's going to be a feature that's probably going to be reserved for the Pro 4K.
Yeah.
I see you guys kind of
Yeah,
nodding.
Yeah, the pixel vibration, that kind of stuff, that's all dependent on the projector hardware. So current Maxes definitely wouldn't be able to support it without actually having seen what's inside the 4K. That projector may not even fit in that Max shell. So again, even future Maxes might not support it. I would find it unlikely that would ever come to the Max.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Especially since it's so accurate as it is.
Yeah.
To put that expensive of a projector into a Max, it may not be beneficial for a Sega. I mean,
Economically feasible, probably.
it'd probably turn that $11,000 printer into I don't know what it costs, but maybe $19,000 printer. And so for the build plate size, you're better off just spending a little bit more and getting the 4K.
Yep. What kind of resin can I print that bottle holder? Really anything you want. I'd probably just print it in model resin just because it's the easiest and cheapest.
Yep.
So I'd probably print it in the model resin. Looks like that's all of the questions that I'm seeing for right now.
Yeah, that's all I've seen as well. I haven't got any other messages come through. Let's see. That's all I have right now as well. One of our sales reps just sent me over a screenshot or the descriptive of that 4K mode. So I'm just going to read it real quick for that pixel shift technology. So there's two printing modes. There's the native pixel mode for defined exposure of pixels for specialty applications, and then there's 4K mode for enhanced resolution and surface finish, so a greater surface quality, a more accurate surface quality. 4K mode uses pixel shifting technology to improve 3D printed part appearance and resolution without affecting the printing time. The 4K mode is a standard feature included free with every 4K printer. The native pixel on the 65, the Pro 4K 65 is 65 microns. The 4K mode is actually 46 microns, so that's extremely accurate. And then the native mode for the 80 is 80 microns, and the 4K mode is 56. So I think I said 57, so it's 57 or 56 microns for XY. And 4K mode is activated or disabled in the printer settings, so in the advanced parameters page or parameters page. And settings making it simple to switch on and off. We expect most customers will use, this is directly from Graham at Asiga, we'll expect most users to actually utilize the 4K mode as their default printing setting, as it's going to give us the greatest surface quality for models and castables in all of our applications. So thanks for sending that over, Sherry. Yeah, it's just wild.
So we're talking the Pro 4K 80 is going to be the build plate size is over 3 times larger than the Max, and it's going to have greater accuracy. I mean, that's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive how well Asiga builds a printer. I mean, it's just blown us away for every printer that we've ever had from Asiga. It's just phenomenal, the performance we get from it, the accuracy we get from it, and just the build quality. I mean, we look at printers every day. All of us do. Me, Evan, Will, and Bryce. And so it's just like when we see different printers and we start playing with it, when we start comparing the quality, we just haven't been able to find anything that has that same build quality as Asiga. It's pretty impressive. So
yeah. Does the bottle holder fit the Whitmix VariBuild printer? I would say probably not. I don't know, Corey. Have you tried it on the VariBuild tray?
I have not. We'll give it a shot, David, and then I believe, David, I think you're one of our dealers in Belgium, I believe it is. I believe this is who this is. If it is, just let me know, and I'll go ahead and I'll test it, and shoot me an email or a WhatsApp, and I'll go ahead and let you know if it works. But it'll be awfully close. It may actually work. So if not, we may be able to create one.
Add one.
Yeah. Yeah. This is our one of our dealers from Belgium. I got an opportunity to spend time with them back in February. They have really good beer in Belgium. It was phenomenal. Great group of guys over there too.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was.
Cool. Well, that's I don't see any more questions. Do any of you guys have anything?
Nope. I'm all caught up on my question list here.
Let's see, Sharon, tell us more about what the VariBuild printer and who it works best of.
I think that's supposed to be 4.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, go ahead, Corey.
No, well, if you want to go ahead.
No, it's all yours.
All right. So the VariBuild printer is a printer that we brought on here at Whitmix Corporation, and we wanted to find something that was at a lower entry level price point. It's a solid printer. It prints accurately. It's got decent speed on it, but it's a great way to get your foot wet into the 3D printing arena without having to make the investment to get into like the top tier printers like Asiga. And so that's really what we're looking in, is just getting that intro printer. It's going to work. It works great for printing models, for printing surgical guides. We're working on getting a castable resin validated for it. It also is compatible with the denture resins and the temporary resins. So if you're looking to get into printing dentures or printing models, castables, surgical guides at a lower price point, this is that great printer. It's great for some of the smaller laboratories, maybe not a large production laboratory. but for the smaller boutique laboratories, they'll work great there. Even dental offices, if they're looking for a chairside printing solution, this is a great addition to your lineup of equipment there as well.
Mm-hmm. Just to add on to that, when we kind of got our first one for the practical lab here at Whitmix, between the four of us, we really put that thing through the ringer. We really did. I mean, that thing was running nonstop, and I personally, I was very impressed with the performance out of that little printer. Even though it is an entry-level price point, it's a really solidly built little machine. So, you know, if any of you are interested in getting into 3D printing, don't let that phrase entry level necessarily steer you away from this printer, because they are very well built machines. They hold up really well.
I should say entry price point.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was my bad. Yeah, it's a great price point to get into 3D printing and have an excellent 3D printer to get you started.
Yep.
That's all the questions that I have so far on my screen. What do you got over there, Bryce?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I've got everything answered that I have.
Awesome. I just want to touch base real quick. So next, this upcoming Friday, we have another series coming up. We got Bryce and Evan both tackling, well, I believe it's going to be on PC performance and tips and tricks on how to keep up with your computer technology. I know Evan's going to do some speed comparisons. They're going to talk about how to do file management, and it's just going to be a great webinar on Friday, covering everything about computers that you need to know to make sure that you're up to spec on that. And then, of course, the week after that, Monday, we're starting with Splints 101, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then we'll have series, you know, as the weeks come on, we'll have the everything is in place. It's going to be every Monday, Wednesday, Friday from noon to 1 Eastern Standard Time Zone. So I just want to say thank you all for everybody that asked questions. Those are great questions, and thank you all for your time today. Absolutely. And this is recorded too, so we can watch it again later.
Yep. Yeah,
Now,
thank
there
you
was
everyone.
one more
really great
question
questions.
that came in about where do we find the schedule. So if you go to whitmix.com, on the very top, there's going to be a button that says training. And if you click that, that'll take you to where you can register and see the entire schedule.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, this concludes the session today. I just want to first off say thank you, Will and your beard, for joining us. It was a pleasure seeing you both today. And
Thank you.
if you guys have any other questions, you can email us at productsupport@whitmix.com. And then, sorry, two more things come in about CE credits. We're working with our technician, our marketing guru, to actually get that implemented. So once we have the CE credits, you know, we'll be able to, I'll have to check with them to see how we get it for backdated. I don't know that process. So we'll get that checked out with Bernie and be able to move forward from there.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and end it. And thank you guys for all your time today. This is awesome. I think it was a really good webinar today.
Yeah, thank you everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Here.